Welcome to the Too Much to Say podcast, where we have too much to say. Episode 18, How to Fix America, Part 2, the long-awaited sequel to our How to Fix America, Hookers and Drugs, aka Part 1. I'm joking, but that's only kind of. You should check it out. It was episode 16. We went into Part 1, and I explained how hookers and drugs legalizing hookers and drugs would save America, in part, anyway. We're going to break down a little bit different piece of how to fix America today. But first, we need to hop into the weekly random, as the Russian collusion story has taken its next step in the long-awaited unfolding of this wonderful saga that the orange tyrant, Trump baby blimp, Lord Putin's puppet has led us on. And that is that Trump and his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, the disgraced former mayor of New York City, is now claiming that collusion is not a crime. The collusion, of course, referencing colluding with Russia to, tilt our election in their favor, to influence our election through social media and changing and actually doctoring the voting digitally, so hacking. We actually have this one comes fresh off the press of from Trump. This today at 4:56 a.m. because our president not only tweets at 3 a.m. but also at 5 a.m. But he says collusion is not a crime, but that doesn't matter because there was no collusion except by crooked Hillary and the Democrats. Trump does what he always does. He puts out the piece of information, what he actually wants to say, and then, this is self or projection. This is self-projection. So he always puts it out there. He always says, collusion is not a crime. That's what he wants to tell everybody. But then he has to up the ante one step further. It doesn't matter, though, because I didn't do it. The only reason you come out and say that collusion is not a crime is because you did it. And then he takes it one. So it's like the 3-step plan. One, you got 1 step is collusion not a crime. 2 steps is it doesn't matter because I didn't do it. 3 step is to then blame someone else for what you did, and that is Hillary and the Democrats did it, though. That's the 3. And the amazing thing is that it works almost. It works on his sycophants. Obviously, it doesn't work on people who, I guess, haven't lost their mind, who aren't beholden, aren't bedazzled by this demagogue. And I tweeted it the other day about his amazing ability, the scorched earth lying, where you get on a big platform, you spout a bunch of lies, a bunch of people won't catch all of them, and some people who will question them but forget about it, and other people who will who won't question them. So you get lies through just by lying all the time. And you can see that in one tweet. He lies 3 different times. And I want to give credit where credit's due, but it's just shitty. It's not creative. It's not genius. It's just being an awful human being. Anyway, let's move on to our next Trump tweet. This is like 4 tweets altogether, because Trump has decided that to continue his attack on the media. But this week, he took it to a whole new fascist level. I'm not really sure what else to call it. We'll just go ahead and read through the 4 tweets. When the media, driven insane by their Trump derangement syndrome, reveals internal deliberations of our government, it truly puts the lives of many, not just journalists, at risk. Very unpatriotic. Freedom of the press comes with the responsibility to report the news accurately. 90% of media coverage of my administration is negative. Despite the tremendously positive results we are achieving, it's no surprise that confidence in the media is at an all-time low. I will not allow our great country to be sold out by anti-Trump haters in the dying newspaper industry. No matter how much they try to distract and cover it up, our country is making great progress under my leadership, and I will never stop fighting for the American people. As an example, the failing New York Times and the Amazon Washington Post do nothing but write bad stories, even on very positive achievement, and they will never change. Well, he went a little too long here. He started going off the rails. And I mean, it's more like you're always off the rails, but eventually you just kind of fall into a canyon. Like for the most, he's off the rails, but he can kind of keep control of it because he's on, flat ground. But then eventually he just goes off and straight into the canyon. But he claims, and this is the most dangerous thing about what he's doing when it comes to attacking the media. One of the media's jobs is to keep our government honest, to report on the things that they're doing and not doing. And he's telling us basically that they shouldn't do that. They shouldn't be reporting on his government and calling them unpatriotic. It wouldn't be dangerous if nobody listened to him. If everybody treated him for what he was, a deranged old rich person, then it would be just water under the bridge. But he has far too many followers for it to be just swept under the rug. Instead, he continually attacks the media, continually degrades it, continually lowers the confidence in the people who would do the best job of checking his power, checking his reign of terror. I mean, I don't really know how else to describe it. I mean, then he just, like I said, he goes after media, and then he goes after it again, goes after it again. I mean, this is his way. But as we just talked about in the last tweet, like I said, what really disturbed me about it is just how just how fascist it comes off. I mean, this is the media is a free press, I should say, is a dictator's and a fascist nightmare because they can oppose unfair treatment. They report on the negative things that the demagogue is doing, and that's really all that. I mean, sure, there are people like me who attack him. I get it, but people like CNN and Washington Post and the New York Times reporting facts isn't bad. Like reporting facts, positive or negative, that's just reality. If the economy does great, then they report that. If it's doing bad, they report that. If the president goes over to Russia and licks the boots of a former KGB agent, then they report that. That facts are facts. You go over there and you throw our intelligence people under the bus in support of our enemy, Russia, then you should expect to get some backlash. You should expect people to report on that. It's mind-numbing. All right, we're gonna leave. We're gonna leave Trump land for. I think I've devised the new way. We're gonna do 2 American-centric stories every week and 2 international stories. Our third story takes us to Moscow, actually, where thousands of protesters have been actually protesting Putin. And this is something I've actually been wondering for a long time: is what does it take to push these people against their dictator? It, it's such. I mean, I feel like it's such a poignant topic because, I mean, we're kind of living it a little bit. It's not the same thing, not yet. I mean, it could be if we let Trump get away with what he's trying to get away with. I still have a lot of hope and faith that we won't. But I mean, President Putin is technically a president. He might as well be a dictator by the way that he manipulates the elections, but technically he's a president. And these people have allowed him, the Russian people have allowed him through either, passivity or, intentional acts to become a dictator, an effective dictator. I mean, there was a time when he wasn't in the government, where he had a puppet and he was a prime minister, and then he went back to being president, and now he's president again, and he's been president the entire time. So, what does it take for people to stand up to these people? I mean, unfortunately, for somebody like Putin, it would pretty much take a war. I mean, either it would. I'm not really sure. Like I said, I don't know. I mean, we saw Saddam Hussein. It took America basically breaking his door down to take his leadership away from him. That was a war. I feel like that's what's so dangerous about. I mean, I guess it's always been like that, but war's just gotten more bloody. Our tools of death are just that much more effective. Technology's increased. Killing people is easier. And so I guess it just worries me, like, for the Russian people, for these people who are protesting. Their protests were actually about the fact that Putin has basically put a proposal out to raise the retirement age from 60 to 65 for men and 55 to 63 for women. As I mean, basically to help out his reasoning is, and I'm sure it's valid. I mean, but his reason is to improve government finances. Well, his people don't think that's a great idea, so they came out and chanted Putin is a thief and away with the czar. I mean, I guess I just would be curious to see what it would take to. I mean, I guess last time they overthrew him, it wasn't him, but it was the Soviet Union. I mean, they've kind of reverted back into that. It's a hard thing to shake. I mean, government in this day and age has so much power. Anyway, I just would be very interested to know what it would actually take to get rid of someone like Putin. I mean, we see it in North Korea. What would it take to get rid of Kim Jong Un? There's no way that the people in general of North Korea are happy with him. I mean, that one I think will eventually come to blows. This one might as well. I don't see the will to fight against Russia being the same as the will to fight against Kim Jong Un. All right, our fourth and final story of the weekly random is that smoking marijuana is now legal in Georgia, the country. The former Soviet Union countries, Georgia has legalized marijuana. Before the state, Georgia, where we assumably have more rights, was able to legalize it. the backwards nature of our country is absolutely fascinating. The fact that we want to control so many people's lives about such silly things, it just baffles me. Why do people care if other people smoke marijuana? I'm not saying people need to smoke and drive. You know, DUI and DWIs aren't going to go away. I just don't know why they care what people do in their free time. We're adults, or a lot of us are. We're humans. Why do I care if you smoke? Why do I care if you have gay sex in your free time? Why do I care about these things? I don't, but you know what I mean. Like, why do people care? Fascinating. All right. Well, let's move on to the Reddit shower thought of the week. This week is coming from, let me see if I can pronounce his name right. User Elikichi. And they say, in one generation, we went from watch your mouth around grandma, she's different, she's from a different time, to don't mind all the stuff grandma says, she's from a different time. And grandma also elected Trump, so it's. I mean, racism is obviously never excusable, and that's kind of what we're talking about here is racism and prejudice and bigotry and that sort of thing. That our grandparents say because, like they said, they're from a different time. It's not really excusable, but the problem is just that it's hard for people to change. Our job is just to be the change we want to believe in. Our job is to help them see black people aren't bad, immigrants aren't bad, they're humans. That's a whole nother subject. It bothers me that how dehumanizing we are towards other human beings. There's no reason. Like, I just read a story about like this down in Florida. There was a little girl who this shop, this auto shop, like saved this little girl from getting put into a detention center, and they were getting death threats for having done so. I don't understand. These people did a good thing. They a little girl, like, especially after seeing what happened to all the children in these concentration camps, essentially. You're so mad that this person helped prevent a little girl from going into that, where some of these kids were abused, they were given you know, psychiatric drugs without permission, like, and they were told basically that if you don't speak out against what's happening here, all this just terrible stuff. Which that's a whole nother thing. That's I'm not bringing it. That story hasn't ended. Those kids have not been returned to their parents, and we are not talking about it. And that is an issue. I'm guilty of that as well. But here I'll get back on my soapbox today and write your congressmen, write your senators. This is fucking ridiculous. There's no reason that this should have ever happened. But definitely no reason we shouldn't have already returned the children to their parents. You fucked up. Not you, but the government screwed up. The government took these kids away from their parents and deported their parents. Guess what? You get to go find them. You get to do everything in your power to fix the problem that you created on your own. You can spend $12 billion trying to freaking overcome the tariffs that you imposed. They're hurting the farmers, but you can't go and help these kids get back to their parents. Just fucking ridiculous. I just, welcome to America, where we care only about white kids. I mean, if you didn't know, I'm white, and where I'm coming, I just want you to let you know where I'm coming from here. And it might be evident from my voice or not. I can never tell from anybody's voice. But if you're not watching me on Twitch, you never come out, check out the YouTube channel. I'm a white person, and I just want other people to be afforded the same privileges that I have been. And maybe that makes me crazy. I don't know. Anyway, back. Well, let's go. Let's continue down this path of how to fix America. Ending racism is one of them. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. Because for our main event, we are going to discuss, we're going to start off with healthcare. Today, actually, over the last 2 days, I suppose, a story came out of a new study that was performed, that was backed by the Koch brothers, the Coke, maybe Coke. I think it's Coke, but they're just terribly conservative. They've caused so much damage to America through what they've done. But what they did is they actually funded a study to figure out how much money it would take to fund Medicare for all, Bernie Sanders' proposal. And what they determined at the end of the day is that it would save America $2 trillion. Now, they didn't present the results of their findings that way. They presented that it was going to raise, I think, cost $33 trillion to the American government. But when in all actuality, the American people are already spending that and more on healthcare. And so over the same period of time where the American government would spend $33 trillion, America would spend 35. And this doesn't even take into this doesn't even take into account the amount of money that could be saved on prescription drugs and an administrative overhead. Like this is what we're talking about here, single payer. This is where basically the American government, in this case, is now the single payer. So they would be able to go to a pharmaceutical company and say, "Hey, I want your drug, but I'm going to buy 2 million of it, and I want it a penny a piece, or whatever, or $1 a piece, or $10 a piece." Whereas before, that price was being negotiated with individual companies, and they're saying, I want to buy 1,000. And they're like, well, it's $1,000 a piece, but I'm buying 1,000. Yeah, well, they can't negotiate. They have no spending power. We'd essentially be eliminating all of those little companies and making one big company who would be able to say, I want it for $10 a piece or whatever. I mean, I'm just giving I'm giving an example, a theoretical example. But that's the idea: is that you'd be able to negotiate lower prices on these pharmaceuticals, on these pills, on these drugs, and it's kind of what Walmart already does as a company. Is they're able to go to these companies and say, hey, we want to buy this from you, but it's going to be at this price right here, and anything that doesn't sell, you're going to buy back. And honestly, it's not that great. These companies who have to take these deals from Walmart, it's not that great of a deal for them in many ways. I mean, if their product doesn't sell, they have to buy it back from Walmart, and they have to take it at a lower price. But the thing is, they have the potential of making so much more money working with Walmart rather than working outside of Walmart, that they take these deals. And that's essentially what would happen if we went to a single payer. No pharmaceutical company in the world would want to lose out on the American market. They'd be insane to have done that. So yeah, it's going to slash their profits, but it's going to save the American taxpayer, everyone in America, so much money. I mean, and also now you're switching. Right now, insurance companies' their goal is to make money, and they do hand over fist. But moving, and I know the government is not perfect in everything that it does, but we also see single payer healthcare in Canada, in Europe, and it has lowered significantly the prices they pay. Well, I mean, they don't even, at that point, just the prices paid in general, but they don't even pay for it except through their taxes, which we already pay, and I already pay taxes, and I already pay for healthcare, and I'm sure you do too. If you're above the age of 18, the healthcare mandate, I know it's about to go away, but that's not going to help anything. What happens when you hurt your back? You still have to go. You're going to need healthcare at that point. This gives it to everyone, and it's single payer, so it lowers the prices. It's really the only way. I mean, there are some other options, but no options are going to give you as much coverage as a single payer healthcare. And I know people are, oh, well, look at the lines. There's in Canada. I mean, yeah, there are lines for non-essential procedures, but the non-essential procedure is still free. And if you have an essential procedure or an emergency, you still get moved up to the front of the line. And everything I've ever heard from anyone in Canada has been positive about their healthcare. And I know that's anecdotal, but that's not how I feel about our healthcare system. I mean, I currently pay for healthcare, don't really want to personally because I don't really use it, but I still want other people to be covered if they need it and use it, and I'd rather do it for cheaper. I'm all about efficiency. That's me. I love efficiency. I love to save money. Um, and we are not doing that right now in America. We spend more on healthcare than any other country in the world, and we don't get better healthcare from it. All right, that's one, healthcare, single payer healthcare. Number two, education. Now, this is something I feel that we don't talk about enough. This is my number one complaint about the election in 2016 was that we weren't really talking about the issues. I mean, that was honestly, other than not going to Michigan and not going to Pennsylvania, Hillary's biggest flaw is that her argument at the end of the election felt like I'm not Trump. You should vote for me because I'm not Trump. While that is a compelling argument, and that's definitely been proven after this last. That's definitely been proven after this last 2 years, essentially, only this year and a half. We're not talking. She wasn't talking to us about the issue. She wasn't telling us how she could fix America for us. She wasn't talking to us about education, about healthcare, about all everything we talked about in part one. She was just telling, I'm not Trump. I'm not this lunatic. You should vote for me. While, like I said, I agree with that. That's not going to compel people to come out to vote for you. It's just not. That's not a compelling argument. What is a compelling argument is that our children's futures are the future of this country. America tomorrow is, America, is our children. How the fact that we're not talking about needing to, pay, increase funding and how we can improve our test scores. America is not the high, let's look this up. Literacy rate in America. 21% of adults in the U.S. read below a 5th grade level. 19% of high school graduates can't read. That's our amazing American education system right now. That's what it has to offer us. 19% of high school graduates can't read. We're not improving. The illiteracy rate hasn't improved in 10 years. We're not moving in the right direction, and we're not talking about how to fix it. During Bush's terms, we had, we've had a couple of things, Common Core. We've talked about No Child Left Behind. That one was famous and horrible. But what we need to be talking about is how we can change education in America to help the poor and disadvantaged. I just got finished reading Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. I'm doing a Malcolm Gladwell kick because, well, I was only going to read Outliers. It looked really good, and then that one was really great. So then I moved on to Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point. But anyway, in Outliers, he talks a lot about about KIPP Academy, and basically, KIPP Academy talks about one of their credos is that all students will learn and achieve at high levels when given the opportunity. That is contrary to everything that anyone has ever told you about education or told me about education. So many people I talk to, so many people's opinions of education is that if you're smart, you're going to learn. If you're not, then you're not going to learn. That, you're either good at math or you're not. That's not true. I agree with the KIPP Academy slogan. And they have results proving this out. So their goals are to prepare students with the skills and content knowledge needed to be successful in college and their careers. By monitoring academic progress, KIPP teachers know what their students need and tailor instruction so that every child receives the appropriate level of support and challenge. Basically, if you work hard enough at it, you can learn it. And if we teach children and show them success, work in general is only fun if it's tied to success. When you work and fail, it becomes an onerous task. It becomes torture, basically. You lose the motivation to work. When it's not something that pushes you, when you don't see benefit from it, why do it? When you don't enjoy it and it doesn't benefit, why do it? I work out 5 days a week. I put my body through, fairly rigorous, workouts every single day. And they're fun most days, but some days they're not. But the reason I do it is because I see results. Children in schools we're not training them to see those results from their hard work. If we were, then people wouldn't say, oh, I'm just not good at math. Math is not magic. While some people might be able to catch on quicker, that doesn't mean anybody can't catch on. It's all just logic. So if we lead you down the path, or the teacher is able to spend more time with that student with math and drill it into them, then they can learn it. I know smart people I deem intelligent, who have told me that they're not good at math. I've seen them. I know they're intelligent. I know they can do math. I know that these people have proven this. Anyway, the point being, I think that for education, we need to increase funding, and we need to give a very strong look at KIPP Academy and the way that they go about education, and do our best to adopt what we can to improve education. I think we need to get rid of No Child Left Behind. If you're not able to move up to the next grade, it doesn't hurt you to stay behind. It might give you that chance to learn what you're lacking in. Um, the same thing with Common Core. I don't. We need to reform education in America. We need to see improvement. We need to get our best educated minds together, and we need to review standardized testing. We need to review how much homework kids are seeing at young ages, how much physical exertion, how much playtime they're actually getting. At a young age, my personal opinion is that they should be playing more. But we need to see what's best for them. We need to get an educational task force to overhaul the American education system. And we need to give the education system more funding, especially in poor and disadvantaged areas, so that we can bring them up to the standard of everybody else. This is not. I don't think these are revolutionary ideas. I think KIPP is pretty revolutionary. But the fact that we're not talking about even just putting more money into education is insane. The fact that these teachers who are responsible for the futures of our children are scraping to get by is insane. Teachers deserve to be paid more, especially the good ones. We need to incentivize people to want to stay as teachers and become teachers. I knew plenty of people who were becoming doctors who didn't want to become who wanted to become teachers, but they couldn't because they knew they couldn't take care of their families. You can't a family can't live off of $30,000 a year, especially if they have a college degree that they're paying for. And if you're having a college degree, why would you want to subject yourself to that unless you just love teaching that much that you're willing to? But we could get these people together. We could get better, even more qualified teachers. Wouldn't you want the people who could become doctors to become teachers? There was a while where I thought that's something I wanted to do, but I went away from it for the exact same reason. I just simply couldn't afford the lifestyle I wanted to give my children and my family was something more than the 30,000, and with a degree I could do that. I also think one of the things I think we could definitely improve is I think we should have career decision classes in high school and maybe even in middle school. I'd love for children to be able to go out and shadow different professions, what they're interested in. They should write down, these are the professions I think I'd like to do. They could be trade school, they could be professionals, they could be Wall Street, it could be anything. And then, I'm about to say human resources, the guidance counselors can go out and try to land not internships but shadowing opportunities for these students. Because quite frankly, when I came out of high school all those years ago now, I had no clue what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to become a doctor. I figured out I didn't want to be a doctor when I was in my senior year in college. And I was about to start shadowing doctors to fulfill my hours to become to go to med school. I had already taken the MCAT. It was almost done with my biology degree. And I figured out, I don't want to be locked into this for the rest of my life. Shadowing. I also think we should have mandatory post-high school graduate school, if you will. It doesn't have to be school, but it should be either school or military. Or, I guess, a job that meets a certain threshold. But we need to have educated and prepared children and graduates of high school coming out into the market instead of people, you know, kind of wandering after they get out. And that, I mean, like I said, that'd be college, trade school, military, or like I said, a job that meets a certain threshold. Because I mean, there's plenty of people who, I mean, if for instance, once the NBA gets their head out of their ass, and they actually allow high schoolers back in, the ones that are ready, people should be able to go directly from high school to the NBA or whatever profession. I mean, if you have the requisite type of skills, or baseball, for instance. Baseball, they drive people out of high school, and they can just go straight there instead of going to college. I don't know, sports is the only thing coming to my mind at the top, but that video game, esports is another one that's coming up. Acting's another one. But that should definitely be an option, but we need to get the more of the population that is, trained and ready, the more, the better America becomes. And I mean, there's obviously in all of these things I'm talking about, there is some wiggle room. There is some discussion to be had. But the groundwork is here to really push America forward. All right. The last piece I want to talk about today, anyway. So we've gone through healthcare, education, and now we're going to go into the economy. Now, when we talk about the economy, I think the most important thing to talk about is the future. I think too often we look at what's happening right now in the economy, and we see just the trend, just the things that are happening, as opposed to what is coming down the pipeline, or what are the trends that are going to bring us into the future. And I think the number one thing is globalization. This forbidden taboo word that Republicans deem forbidden and taboo. Oh no, globalization is bad. America first. Guys, globalization. This is the definition of globalization: the process by which businesses or other organizations develop international influence or start operating on an international scale. Globalization is here. It's not coming. It's here right now. It's not going away. Microsoft is an international corporation. Apple is an international corporation. Samsung is a South Korean international corporation. It's not going anywhere. We shouldn't try to fight it. Globalization is the process by which we can improve the world and the world can improve us. By saying you don't want globalization, it's like saying throwing your hands on your ears and just screaming, "I have all the answers. I'm not listening." We don't have all the answers. We need to listen. That goes for everybody. The moment you shut yourself off in any as a person from everybody else is the moment you become Donald Trump. No, it's the moment you're lost. It's the same thing for a country. We need to work together. The French have great ideas. The South Koreans have great ideas. The Japanese have great ideas. The British have great ideas. The Italians have great ideas. The South Africans have great ideas. All these countries have great ideas. We should be working with them, not trying to isolate ourselves from them. Number 2, automation of jobs. This is something that's been coming, and people have been predicting, people have been warning against. Artificial intelligence is here. More jobs are going to be consumed by artificial intelligence every single year. They're going to be automated. For instance, I'll give you a great example. Kiosks are now going in at McDonald's. This is something that's happening right now. Kiosks are going into McDonald's for ordering your food. And then you basically go up to the kiosk, you order your food, you sit down, and somebody brings it out to you. You never talk to anybody. That's happening right now. Those jobs are going away. That's that's coming, and it's happening. We need to be prepared for it. I'm going to break down. I'm going to give you the 3 points I see for the future, and then I'm going to go into how we can get ready for them. So, number 1 is globalization. 2 is automation of jobs. Number 3 is green energy. Under Trump, we have intentionally neglected green energy, alternative energies. This one of the most important pieces of technology is the wave of the future. This sector represents so many potential jobs for Americans, so much export technology from America. America can be the forefront of green energy, but the government has refused to support it, to put money into research, put money into. I mean, under Obama, we had some green energy like tax credits, that sort of thing, rebates. We need to do more of that. We need to encourage not only its research, we need to put money into the research of green energy, but also the consumption through tax credits, through rebates. We need to push towards green energy. All right. So those are our 3 things. Globalization, automation of jobs. This is the future. Globalization, automation of jobs, green energy. How can we kind of form the economy to embrace those 3 things? The number 1 thing, I guess, for globalization especially, is to seek out partnerships like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, the much maligned TPP that was happening right at the election, and that nobody really understood, and so Trump was able to make an enemy of TPP and to preach to the world how he was going to save America from TPP. Well, the problem with that is that TPP is like NAFTA. It's a Trans-Pacific Partnership, a North American Free Trade Agreement. It would have given us a foothold in the burgeoning, South Asian markets. Not in China, but in the other ones. Now, there was some sacrifice we would have been making. That's what these agreements are. We would have been giving up, according to this agreement, we would have been trading some nursing jobs and retail work for IP, intellectual property laws and automotive exports and pharmaceuticals. So basically, the goal from our perspective, from the Western perspective, is we could have introduced intellectual property laws in Asia, something we haven't been able to do thanks to China, because China basically just rips off people, and you go over there to produce your thing, and they basically just rip it off, give it to a Chinese person, and then the government supports that Chinese person to make that thing. Well, if China was willing to observe our intellectual property laws, they wouldn't be able to do that. Now, this isn't pushing this on China, but we'd be able to push this on these South Asian countries were agreeing to this in exchange for this agreement. Now, we've been talking about this loss of jobs in nursing and retail, and that obviously that's a very scary thing. I mean, taking jobs away from any American is a scary thing. But the main reason it's so scary is because our safety net in America is so sparse. We are not willing to take care of the poor. We are not willing to take care of the needy. If you lose your job, then you can go get welfare. You can get unemployment. Unemployment is like a minimum wage job. It's nothing. If you had a decent job, you are a nurse and you're making $70,000 to $80,000 a year, dropping down to 30. Yeah, it's better than zero, but it's pennies on what you're making, basically. I mean, you're hurting to pay your bills. So if we actually had a safety net, we would be able to, like, Trans-Pacific Partnership wouldn't be a scary thing. It would be something that could enrich the entire country. I mean, we are so, in America, we're very individualist. We push for the individual, like we're all about us rather than about being about the entire country. Well, I mean, I don't really blame people for being that way because our country doesn't try to take care of us. If it did, then things would be completely different. If then TPP would be a good thing because it would increase our large businesses' ability to go over and increase their foothold in China or in South Asia, increase trade, and increase, overall GDP of America, which, if America was structured correctly, would benefit the entire country. Right now, it only benefits the few, but it should be able to benefit all of us if we did things correctly. So, I think we should go after those trade partnerships, especially something like TPP. We need to get a foothold in Asia. We need to be able to push back China. China is aggressive, and they are the largest country in the world by population. We need the help of those other South Asian countries to be able to rebuff them. I mean, it would be an economic coup d'etat, essentially, to be able to enforce IP laws in South Asia, and we gave that up because we can't take care of our own people. So for things like TPP and for automation of jobs, there's kind of two things. Automation of jobs means jobs are going away. This is going to happen regardless of whatever agreements we want to put out there. So what we need to do is we need to get ready for it. There's going to be jobs, especially, I think we're especially going to see the lower jobs go away, but we're also going to see higher jobs, more complicated jobs, things my job couldn't be automated. Last time I was looking through things about automation, project management was going to be automated. Like that's a pretty complicated field, and if they're able to automate it through software, it's a lot of jobs going away. We should want to take care of those people. We should be taking care of them. We should, through multiple ways. We should increase benefits for the disabled, people who can't work. We should be trying to create jobs for the unemployed. One of the number one industries that's going to grow, especially as the baby boomers phase out, is not healthcare, but just the kind of the hospice workers taking care of these people from an emotional standpoint. Basically the industry of taking care of others, elderly, disabled, addicts, when we have disasters, prisoners. In the last podcast, we talked about getting rid of private prisons and helping people phase back in from prison and doing more. I am very, like I said, we're going to have to phase the people. I wanted to amnesty people who, are in there for drugs. Well, we need to help those people get back on their feet. That will be positions. We need to help people who are actually in prison be rehabilitated. Human aid should be one of the number one job creation industries in America over the next few decades, as people should be. If we are able to, get rid of private prisons and actually focus prisons on the correct message, which is rehabilitation, and as old people, as the baby boomers get older, There's so many ways we're going to need to take care of people, especially as climate change is affecting us. We're going to have so many more disasters. We need to be prepared. And if we focus less on putting drug addicts in prison, we focus more on taking care of them, helping them get out of their addiction. We need to help the addicts. Like I said, taking care of people should be one of the biggest booms in the economy. And that's something we would be able that I'd like to focus on. We also need to take better care of our infrastructure. We need to clean up our environment. We need to clean our cities. We need to improve the infrastructure through, repaving roads, making sure, well, here in Georgia, we need to make sure our bridges don't break. We should be doing that all around the world. Even just beautification of our cities, gardeners, sculptures, like art, this is America. America is great. We should be able to have beautiful cities. We should take care of our cities. And as jobs are phasing out and being automated, we should be able to fill them. We should be able to create these jobs to help take care of our cities. We also need to have livable wages or unemployment benefits for working people who are under livable wages. The way I see it, right now, Walmart basically makes money off the government. Walmart pays their people minimum wage, which is not enough to live on, so that their stockholders make more money, and then the government has to make up for that deficit. For that, they have to take care of those people because they're impoverished. That's fine, but I just want the rich people to pay for it. I mean, they're benefiting directly off of the labor of the poor people, so why shouldn't they have to help the poor people further? And number 5, so we've covered now how to handle globalization and automation. A, it's through partnerships. B, it's through social programs by taking care of our own, taking care of Americans. And that's through livable wages, that's through taking care of others, that's through creating jobs, that's through increasing our benefits for the disabled. But number 5 is going back to the green energy, and I guess I kind of already covered this in some ways. But I want to talk about some of the other future technologies we should be investing in. Artificial intelligence, obviously. We just talked about how automation is about to run this world. It already is in many ways. Green energy, like I said, it's coming. It's here. America needs to be a part of it. We need to pump money into it. Pump it into our car. We need more alternative energies. We need more renewable energies. The world has a pollution epidemic thanks to our use of fossil fuels. We need to combat that. Biotech is only going to be on the rise with CRISPR, which if you don't know what CRISPR is, it's CRISPR. Look it up. It's fascinating. It's gene editing. It is the future. It is coming. We might be doing some of these things now, but we need to continue to invest in biotech, in CRISPR. We need to work on increasing biodiversity, again, renewing the biodiversity that our ecosystems once had, but have lost thanks to the change in the ecology of our ecosystems through climate change, through pollution. Speaking of pollution, we need to clean up the ocean. We need to invest in technology to make that. I'm going to cover that. We're going to come back into this green energy all ties into taking care of our environment, and we're going to cover that one in part 3. We're going to cover that, but we need to move to a single payer healthcare. We need to improve our education through increased funding through KIP. We need to work towards the future of our economy with a focused eye on globalization and on automation of jobs. They're coming. It's all here. We are globalized now. We should not be fighting it. We should be working with it as a government, as a country. These we should be looking for candidates who are wanting to push these specific things, because we need to take care of our country. We need to get ready for the future. Anyway, that concludes part 2 of How to Fix America. There will be a part 3. I don't know about next week. Maybe next week. You'll have to tune in. It might be next week. It might be the week after. I've been I guess last week I did Bo Burnham. This week I did, or the week before I did part 1. So it might be next week. It might be something else. But thank you for listening. And I recommend, like I said, part 1 of How to Fix America was episode 16. I definitely recommend going back and check that out if you didn't. Last week we covered Bo Burnham and his fabulous new movie, 8th Grade. I definitely recommend going back and checking out some of the past episodes. There's some really good things in there. I try to give the best titles I can to kind of illuminate what's in them. Vaccines, truth, social media. There's some really good stuff at the beginning of the podcast as well about social media, about the kind of the political climate of America, even though it's where this is episode 18, so it's week 18, so things constantly change, but Trump's still in, he's still here, so the political climate hasn't changed that much. But I do appreciate you listening wherever you're listening. If it's Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and wherever it is, please follow, like, subscribe. If you're here with me on Twitch, give me a follow. If you have friends you think would be interested in listening to us, I would definitely appreciate you spreading the word. And honestly, the more people who would help us fix America, the better. Because God knows we need it. I mean, we're up against it. The midterms are coming up in November. We need to be voting people in who are pushing for at least similar ideals. They may not be going about it in the exact same way as I am here. And you may not even agree with exactly what I'm saying here. And if you don't, hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Real Sam Shan. I'd love to know. If you have better ideas than me, I'd love to hear them. Because, like I said, we don't turn away. My ideas aren't all perfect. These are a framework. This is the direction that we should be moving in. There may be specific ways we need to do better than what I'm laying out here. If you have them, let me know. I'd love to hear it. You should come hit me up on twitch.tv/2m2s during the podcast on how you want to change it. After the podcast, we always do a 10-minute questions and answers. So hit me up there. We'll talk about it right after the podcast. And, you convince me enough, we'll talk. I'll bring you up the next podcast on, how I'm wrong and how you were right. But again, thanks for listening. Hit us up, 5 stars on iTunes. Follow, like, subscribe wherever you're at. And I hope you have a great week. We'll be back on Saturday to talk about sports and esports at 8:30, twitch.tv/2m2s. If sports isn't your thing, we'll be back next Tuesday at 8:30 Eastern Time, same place. If not, you can catch us on wherever you get your podcast, because we'll be out the next day. But I appreciate you listening, and have a great week.